So welcome again to In Focus, and today I wanted to focus a bit on the Red Komodo. I've had an opportunity to play with this camera in some detail, and I really love it. The size is great. It really lends itself to portability, and you can even go, dare I say, you can go without a monitor on it if you're using focus peaking and false color on this little screen. It's probably good enough that in a pinch it will work, and it has for me indeed on many an occasion. Now, the convenience to this is you'll notice here I have a cold shoe adapter on the top. Now, unfortunately for this small rig cage, I wasn't able to actually purchase immediately the correct cold shoe adapter. There is one made by, I think it's MiniCMIT that makes one. I could be saying that wrong, but they make one, or 𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤. They make a cold shoe adapter that has the airy anti-twist mechanism, so your phone will not swivel around uncontrollably when it's mounted in this. It will be locked down very securely. Unfortunately, this one is not that way, so I've kind of just used a single screw and a small rubber washer to try and give it some friction so it won't twist, but it does twist. So I'm waiting on those ones probably 2 weeks or so before I actually see them. But long story short, this solution of being able to use your smartphone in a pinch, well, essentially you can go with no monitor if you like, if you're trying to travel really light. And if you need to get a better idea of what's actually going on, at that point you can just connect your smartphone. So you're not totally without a serious monitoring solution. Now, if you're going to be shooting with the Komodo and you're going to be in a more professional environment or somewhere where perhaps there would be radio interference, I do wholeheartedly recommend a dedicated monitor, and something that has red control for the camera would be preferable. So I think that the Komodo is flexible in that regard. Now, about the size, you've noticed that I've gotten rid of that large V-mount battery. It was just too cumbersome. It was bothersome to carry this camera with the V-mount. So I'm using now the smaller ones, the smaller BP style batteries, and these are working out very well. They actually last a pretty decent time. I'd say you're looking at probably about 3 hours with two batteries like this attached to your Komodo. And of course they're hot swappable, which is an added bonus that you don't get with the V-mount. So kudos for that. The one thing that really has been a bit of a letdown is the RF mount in some ways. And this is why when I initially bought the Komodo, I said, okay, it's RF mount. That's great. I have a lot of EF glass. I have a lot of RF glass. So one of the staples of my filming lens-wise has been this Canon EF 24 to 70 millimeter, and it's a great lens. It's one of the older lenses, part of the EF lineup. You have to use the adapter on here, and it's going to add maybe 1.5 inches to the overall size. What also it's going to add to this fairly small package is weight. So you're going to end up with a package looking round about that big by the time you're done. And let me tell you, that becomes problematic to carry. So you say, okay, well, how about just opting for a prime? This, for example, is the 50 millimeter prime using the RF EF adapter. And again, you'll notice it's quite large and it has some weight to it. So again, you're looking at, well, maybe about like that, a fairly big package on the Komodo. It's not the best experience. Even if you opt to go with the RF equivalent, for example, the equivalent, this is a 15 to 35. And I believe this 15 to 35 is bigger than the 24 to 70 in the EF mount. So even something like this, and this, by the way, is a wonderful lens, you're looking at a considerable amount of size onto what is, by default, a pretty small camera. So I went in search of a better solution. And I came across some small lenses. I have this one. This is a 35 millimeter, and I don't know if you can see that, this is a Voigtländer, and it's a beautiful piece of glass. These lenses, these Voigtländer lenses, are amongst the best built that I've seen. And when I say best built, these feel to be a Leica quality of build. They far exceed the plastic build of the Canon lenses. And I mean any of the Canon lenses, whether you're looking at the EF or the RF mount, you're going to pay, this lens is in excess of $2,000, I believe. I think pretty much all the RF lenses are in excess of $2,000. And when you feel the quality of the build, it pales in comparison to this. Now, this is a very small lens. You can see on the Komodo, you're now getting down to a very small shooting size, but it gets smaller. So this again is another 35 millimeter lens. This is again a Voigtlander. Now this one is a f1.2. This one is a f2.0. So again, this is a f1.4. So f1.2, f1.4, very small lenses. And on the camera, you're basically looking at a package about that big. They're tiny, they're minuscule. And then the third option I have here, this is a f2.0, again a Voigtlander, and these are tiny lenses. And the build quality of these lenses are such that they don't so much feel like lenses as I've come to know what normal camera lenses are. Like here for example, is the G Master, and this is a very well-made lens. This is a great lens, but next to this lens, next to this feels like junk, honestly, because the build, it's all plastic and it doesn't feel as well screwed together as precision as the Voigtlander. The Voigtlander feels like jewelry. It feels like precision-made jewels. These lenses are amazing. And I think they make them that way because they're essentially, people are buying these things and they're putting them on their Leicas, and they Leica build quality is exceptional. And they're not going to be satisfied with anything less than exceptional on their Leicas. So these small lenses, I think, make an ideal companion for the Komodo because you get to keep the size small. And let me give you an idea of what I mean by small. So this then is a ready-to-shoot Komodo with the Voigtlander f1.4 lens. Now, wide open, this lens is going to be a bit on the soft side. But of course, if you stop it down to f2 or greater, you're going to find that that image sharpens up considerably. I think that this lens has character to it. A lot of these lenses, modern lenses like this G Master, is pretty flawless. The Canon RF in particular, these lenses have exceptional image quality, but they can lend themselves to be a little sterile, whereas these lenses have character. Now, when you're shooting with a camera that puts out 6K resolution, then really detail is not the worry. But more to the point, detail might be the worry if you've got too much of it, because it will show everything. It will show everything, and there's very few subjects that are going to be on camera that have perfect, flawless skin. So it's not a bad idea to have a lens that's a little forgiving. These lenses are forgiving. I find that overall, if you want to put a follow focus, you might find something like this that doesn't have a nub, because some of these, if you notice, have this nub. You see that? I don't know how well that's translating, but they have this nub. And this nub is so that you can put your finger in there and you can easily rotate the focus wheel, essentially when the lens is on your camera. And it works great here too. It really does work wonderfully. I'm out there with my Komodo and I'm able to very easily pull focus just by actuating this. It's a wonderful, wonderful lightweight. You can carry this camera. This camera becomes truly and properly portable with these lenses. It's amazing. I'm surprised more people aren't talking about it. Granted, these lenses, and keep in mind, they're manual focus lenses, but honestly, the autofocus on Komodo, meanwhile, better than any other cinema camera I've ever used. And I'm not counting cameras like the Sony FX6, because really, for me, the FX6 is more of a general purpose camera. It is part of Sony's cinema lineup, but it's more, to my mind, a general purpose stock / everything camera, whereas this kind of camera is a more dedicated cinema camera. And from all the cinema cameras that I've used, this has by far the best autofocus. Nothing else even comes close in a true dedicated cinema camera. And with that said and done, you could use this RF glass, and it's great, but you're not really going to get the autofocus performance as, say, if you had it on a flagship Canon body. Don't expect that. You would be kidding yourself. And if that's why you're buying this glass for the Komodo, then honestly, you're going to be in for a bit of disappointment. What you will get is pristine imagery. These lenses are every bit as good as anything I've used. They are very, very good, and they are modern lenses. So when I say modern, read that to mean sterile, clinical. There's a word, clinical. Whereas these have what we call character. Now, when you're shooting cinema, you have to say to yourself, what are you looking to actually do? Are you looking to accurately document something? Or are you rather looking to have an artistic interpretation of something? If it's the latter, then this lens, these lenses, need your attention. And to that point, I don't need 3 35mm lenses because, well, for one, I only have one Komodo. I'm not going to be putting these all over the place. And secondly, honestly, I don't need 3 35mm lenses. I need one good 35mm lens. So the question is, out of all of these, which is the best? And for that, I turn to you. I need your help. So I'm going to throw up some video, and I want you to look at it. I want you to study it, critique it, and tell me which lens you think is the most cinematic. Is that the word I'm looking for? Creative, artistic, expressive, forgiving to the subject's skin. Which is the best of these 3 for cinema? Voigtländer lens test take 1. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. No, the numbers are right here. It's plain as day. No, it's not going to work. If it was going to work, I would know. Just believe me when I say I would know. I'm good with these things. All right, whatever. Look, it's none of my freaking business, but if this isn't handled, we're going to have issues. That's all I'm going to say. So then in this lens test, what I'm doing is I'm trying to find out, how does this thing work? So essentially, I'm testing it at, I can see my focus. I have focus peaking in on a monitor. Behind the screen, you don't see it, but it's there. Oh, it's there. So basically, I'm monitoring. I know what's going to happen. I know if it's going to work or if it isn't. I know if it's in focus, which is critical. It's critical. This is now the 35mm f4 Classic. These numbers, they don't look right. What the hell's going on here? Was he doing something? Shit. Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers. I don't understand what's going on here. It looks like someone is stealing money. No, I'm looking at it right here. It's plain as day. Oh, you know about this? You freaking know about this? And so the question is, how does this look? Is it more cinematic? Does it have more classic character? That's what this lens is supposed to do. I mean, it's the reason you buy this, particularly for something like a Red Komodo or another cinema camera or a mirrorless that you intend on using for video. So what do you think? Is it good? Voigtlander Ultron f2 Mark II. Take 1. What the hell's going on with these numbers? Somebody's stealing money? Yeah, Jack, I just looked at the books and something is off. Something is definitely off. It looks like somebody is actually stealing. Oh, wait a second. Oh, wait a second. You know about this? You know about this. You can't see it, but behind this computer screen, there's actually a small HD OLED display. It's hooked into the Komodo, and I'm I have it on focus peaking so I can see directly if I'm in focus. And just out of frame, there's a microphone right here doing the audio. And hopefully that's recording correctly, because I did have some trouble syncing in the audio in the past. So hopefully the levels are right, because I mixed up all my tentacle syncs. So that's it. That's everything I have as far as the lens test goes. And I think all of these lenses, they have the potential to really make the Komodo a small package, or for that matter, any other camera that you're shooting with, provided you're willing to work with manual focus. This could be potentially the key.